on this video I'm going to be talking about the book of Proverbs, particularly speaking on the book of Proverbs compared to the Holy Quran. We all know that the Holy Quran, as well as other different books in the Holy Bible, are very, very well comparable. They're very, very well compatible as well, because they do go hand in hand as far as the message of "Behold, O Israel, the Lord your God is one," particularly books in the Old Testament referring to the Holy Bible, particularly many books in the Old Testament in the Holy Bible really reflect and speak to the information and the knowledge, the intelligence which we find in the Holy Quran. And now I'm going to speak particularly on the book of Proverbs. There are various chapters in the book of Proverbs, various chapters in the book of Proverbs, various verses, various ayahs in the book of Proverbs, which when you read really do translate to the intelligence that we also see in the Holy Quran, subhanallah. For example, reading the book of Proverbs 5, 18, 19 and 20, it speaks about men finding a woman, men having a woman, and a man marrying a woman. If you actually read the book of Proverbs, particularly from the first chapter till maybe the 10th chapter going forward as well, you begin to see that they are focusing mainly on the men being wise, the boys being wise, the sons being wise. It speaks particularly of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calling us his sons and telling us how to be wise, which is the same kind of intellect, the same kind of narrative that we find in the Holy Quran as well, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives instructions, proper clear instructions to his sons, to his men, through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chapter 5 speaks about young men finding women, finding wives in their youth, and actually being faithful to those wives, subhanallah. And this speaks as well to the Holy Quran, because the Holy Quran does specify that if you were to have a wife, if you were to get a woman, if you were to become married, you must become faithful to that woman. You must become honorable to that woman. You must become the one and only person to have access to that woman. Because when you read verse 19 of Proverbs, it says that you must let her breast satisfy you at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. This is the same kind of narrative that we find when we read the Quran. The book of Proverbs, similar to the book of Songs of Solomon, similar to the book of the Psalms as well, the intelligence and the intellect that is in there, the information that is in there, you find is the same soothing information, the same information that leads you to worshiping Allah as the Quran, as we see also in the Holy Quran through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after reading this chapter in chapter 5 of the Proverbs, moving forward maybe 4 chapters in, going maybe to chapter 9, right? Chapter 9 now speaks about how wisdom imitates stupidity and how stupidity imitates wisdom. We spoke about women and how you must be glad with a woman in your youth and how you must be married. Now chapter 9 speaks about what you will meet after being married, what you will encounter after you've been married, right? It speaks that you will meet women along the way, foolish women. It calls them foolish women. These are the women who will entice you as a man. These are the women who will try to bring you unto them and will tell you words like stolen water is sweet, bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And this is what you find in chapter 9. They tell you also that jinns, demons, are also in charge of such people. Demons are also behind these foolish women. They are also behind the narrative. They are also behind the plans of these foolish women. They tell you this, that be thee knowing that the dead are also there with these women, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. This is knowledge that you will find in the Holy Quran. This is knowledge that you will find, the wisdom that you will find in the Holy Quran, pertaining to jinns, pertaining to demons, pertaining to the shayateen. They tell you that not everything that you see that is physical, not everything that you encounter that is physical, is not at all just physical. Even speaking about the foolish woman and how glamorous she will look and how she will entice you and she will call you along your way. You begin to put in things such as pornography. You begin to put in things such as addictions to sex as well. They go hand in hand with this. This is the wisdom that we find from the Holy Bible, particularly in the Old Testament, compared to the Holy Quran as well. There are various chapters that I can speak about in the book of Proverbs. There are various chapters I can speak about in the book of Psalms. There are various chapters I can speak about in Songs of Solomon, in Ecclesiastes. There are so many things I can talk about that really speak powerful messages, as the Quran also speaks. Because when you read the Quran from the first chapter, from the first book, you begin to realize that it sounds very much, especially if you come from a Christian background, it sounds very much like you're reading Psalms. And when you read Psalms, Proverbs, Songs of Solomon, all of these other books that are powerful in the Old Testament, you begin to realize, if you have a Quranic background, if you have a Islamic background, you begin to see that this really sounds more like the Quran. The narrative, the spirit behind it sounds like the Holy Quran. I'm not going to include the New Testament, because the New Testament has a lot of ambiguities, it has a lot of confusions, it has a lot of things that were changed, particularly from the Old Testament going into the New Testament. So I don't want to speak much about the New Testament, but mostly the Old Testament really does remind you of the Holy Quran. It really does lead you to the Holy Quran, particularly concerning how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was worshipped in the Old Testament, how he was served by his people. It really resonates. It really comes together when you compare these two books, the Holy Quran as well as the Holy Bible. I don't know what's your take about this matter, so drop it down in the comments and tell me how you feel about that. If you disagree, it's okay to disagree. We are here to share information, so please, if you disagree, tell me why you disagree in the comments. Give me your facts. Leave a like before you leave. Much love. Peace.